Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hal Bradley. I would like to ask us, each and every one of you, that if you enjoyed these shows, please hit like, share, and subscribe after you view the show. Thank you very much.
Well, world, welcome to another episode of the Crisis Victory Show. Today, I've got a very unique guest for us on the show today. His name is Tom, and Tom is a true crisis victor. Traumatized at an early age in his life, he was able to reach out, seek, and discover the Lord, which carried him into his survival scenario that ultimately led to the way he lives today and what he follows today and what he gives back today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you, Tom. Good morning and God bless you, brother. Christian to Christian.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'm very excited about this interview today. I like it how you started age 14. I think that's significant, the loss, the impact of what happened to you in your life at that time. And why don't we go ahead and start at that point there? And then at some points, I'll probably pop in and ask some questions. Thank you.
Sure. Absolutely. Y'all have to rein me in at times because I'm a storyteller and I can talk for so long. My wife's like, don't you get tired telling all those stories? But I don't, because it's the power of God.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
What he's done in our lives. And she's just heard it 1,000 times. So,
well, you took a hell of a loss at the age of 14. And I think that
did.
This is a good starting point in the story.
Right.
And let's go from there. Let's take it from there.
Okay. So at age 14, in high school, I developed an invention. I love math and science, and to have my father's attention, I had to sit at the kitchen table and do math. Science. He's a double major engineer. By the time I was in 6th grade, I knew trigonometry.
Wow.
But that's how you got his attention. He didn't take you fishing. He didn't play ball. So my 2 older brothers got no attention, and they actually got compared to me because I would ace everything, and but I'd sit at his feet essentially and listen, right? And so a lot of wanting to please your father, and I had a big ego, and I wanted to prove I could do what he did. He had an invention under his belt, and so in the 60s, in high school, I was creating science projects that would take me from the school all the way up to state science fair and win. And so this year I decided, I was learning in science about asbestos, how dangerous it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it causes lung diseases and heart disease and cancer. And so I'm like, all of a sudden I put 2 and 2 together. Aren't brakes shoes made out of asbestos? Why isn't anybody doing anything about that? And so I'm thinking, I'm going to create an invention, encapsulates around the brake system of every wheel. As you drive down the road, the wind will blow through it, collect all the dust, sealed system, put it in a bag you can dispose of. And This is mid-60s. And by the way, asbestos brakes were from the beginning of the 1900s all the way through 97 before the EPA banned it, because obviously the health. But nobody paid attention that there was 60 million tons of brake dust coming off cars every year, and a lot of that's going into the atmosphere. And every time you breathe it, it's hurting. So I built this project, my pride, my ego, wanting to please my father wanted to win my science fair, state science fair, which I did.
And you're in the 6th grade.
No, I'm in the 7th or 8th.
Okay. Still, that's awful young.
Well, it is. And God had gifted me with good intelligence. I used to have a photographic mind, photographic memory. Now I'm just glad if I have a memory.
How old are you, Tom? If you don't mind me asking.
71.
So am I.
71. Cool. So this is back in the mid-60s, and I'm, so I created this invention, and I'm, I could go to the brake shops and gather brake dust, like it's laying all over the floors. And I'd say, can I have it? And they'd be like, here's a broom and a sweep it up. Take as much as you want. We don't have to sweep it up. And so I came home because through invention, if you run sawdust, it doesn't weigh the same. Right. Asbestos dust is very heavy. And so I had to prove that blowing through my system would actually gather it and keep it in, into the receptacle in the end. So I did that. And I lived with my father, my mother, and my two older brothers. They were away at college and military. But my mother was my big cheerleader. And she's the only one who showed love, right? My father's love was if you sit there and listen to math and you have his approval, but you don't hear the word love. That didn't happen in the 60s. And so my mother would come down and I wanted to show her my invention as I'm doing this, blowing asbestos through the system. But it's not a sealed system. I'm 14. Give me a break. I'm not that. But while I had a lot of smarts, I didn't have common sense. Now, maybe it goes with 14. But you're just studying about all these diseases that asbestos cause, and now you're blowing puffs and puffs of this stuff in the air. My mother comes down, cheerleads me on. Oh, that's so wonderful. I win the state science fair. My father and I check it out. Yes, it's patentable. We were moving forward with that. And then all of a sudden, my mother gets cancer.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, the invention meant nothing. My ego, nothing. The love of my life that only when I knew my mother is now dying. Cancer riddles through her body. She gets a hysterectomy, a double mastectomy. It goes into her lymph nodes, settles in her liver, and kills her.
I'm sorry.
And at this point, I now have the guilt of the world. Why did I care about a stupid invention for my stupid ego and kill the only love of my life? I had the guilt of the world that I had just killed my mother, and I should have known better. What was I studying about? Asbestos and these diseases. And I'm blowing a bunch of it in the air. So she dies, and I'm riddled with grief, riddled with, hatred, self-hatred, because at this point, I've now killed my mother. And 1 month after she died, I noticed a rock-hard tumor in my gut and about the size of a walnut. Now, my mother was a believer. She had met the Lord. I hadn't. I went to denominational church. The family went to denominational church. They didn't preach the gospel. We didn't know, to actually how to meet the Lord. But I believe God was out there somewhere. He's just big, far away, ruling the world. And there's no personal, even though the scriptures tell us he has every hair numbered on her head. But I didn't know that at that time, and nor did I have belief. But my mother wasn't afraid to die. It didn't bother her. Like, she knew where she was going. Well, that even scared me worse, because I don't know where I'm going. Now I have a rock hard tumor in me. And as Christians nowadays, we know that we can know because we know because we know, because the Holy Spirit and the peace of God that passes understanding can confirm in our hearts what's right.
Amen.
And I knew I had cancer. But you know what? I felt I deserved it, and I deserved to die. I just killed my mother, and this is my penance. I'm going to have to pay the price. I'm going to die. Wasn't going to seek medical help. I wasn't going to tell my father or anybody. I'm just going to pay the price. But now I'm scared to death, because where am I going for eternity? God's up there somewhere. He's big, but am I going to pay enough penance? I don't know that salvation at that moment. I don't know how to come to the Lord. And so for the next 4 months, this continues to grow inside me, probably becomes the size of a softball. This tumor, I won't tell anybody. I'm just suffering in silence. I don't care about my ego anymore. I'd come home every day from school, and I'd sit in my family room alone. My father working 16-hour days, my brother's gone at college and military. And I would sit there, and every time I closed my eyes, I would see a vision. Now, as Christians, we can see visions from God.
Yes.
But I wasn't a Christian yet. But I had a praying mother. And so I would see this vision of puffs of clouds of time, every single time, watching the puffs of clouds go from one end of the horizon to the other. And on top of every cloud puff was a scene in time. But it was life going on without me. That scared the bejeebies out of me. Because it's telling me eternity is real, and the world isn't going to stop when Tom dies. The world didn't revolve around me.
Yes.
Scared the bejeebies. What am I going to do? And I'm just, this is my whole life. I'm occupied with these very thoughts. After 4 months of watching this, and I mean every day, as long as I had closed my eyes, awake in the middle of the day, I'd watch the same vision constantly.
Interesting.
Wonderful to have a praying relative, a mother, or anyone who prays for you.
Yes.
Wonderful. And so at the end of that 4 months, God spoke to me audibly. Now, we as Christians can hear the still, small, quiet voice of the Lord anytime if we walk with him and we learn to distinguish his voice from others. But this is the one and only time I heard audible. And it was so audible, it filled the family room. It sounded like roaring thunder.
Yes.
It was so loud, so crazy, and yet at the same time, so full of love. Rivers of living water of love just lapping over me and all around me. And
that is the confirmation that it was indeed God, because God is love. John chapter 1, verse 7.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we can hear the voice of the enemy. I guarantee you in my book, I talk about times I've dealt with the enemy. So, but this is the time when the enemy can't mimic God's love and he can't mimic God's peace.
No.
Those are the two things he can't mimic. He can give you a love or an a peace, but he can't give you the peace or the love of God. So you're absolutely right. And so all of a sudden, and the Lord told me two things. He said, I love you, and someday I'll provide you a perfect mate for you. Now, the first part absolutely made sense. I'm surrounded in the love of God that I thought my mother's love was big, but it made it look that small.
Yeah.
And this was amazing, overwhelming. And I'm like, he loves me. The God of the universe just took time to visit me and tell me he loves me. Oh my God. I mean, it's like the best thing ever in the moment.
Hey, can I cut in right here? I'd like to share something with you.
Yeah.
The night of the night of June 6th, June 7th of 2020, a contract killer came in from Sinaloa, Mexico, and was contracted to take my life. I was in my house. I get a knock on the door at midnight. I go out to the security door at my house, and I'm looking through, and I see this guy in a tow truck uniform, the hat with the tow truck company, his name on the shirt, And I asked him what's going on, and he woke me up out of a dead sleep. So anyway, he says, do you own that yellow Corvette Stingray out in the alley? And I said, I do. And he says, well, I'm a tow truck driver. I just backed into it. Can you come down, take a look at the damage, and we'll fill out the paperwork? 10 years earlier, and my 17 years as an undercover contractor for the Department of Justice, you bypass anything like that is questionable. But I had just come out of a dead sleep and was totally not in my normal thought. So I open up the security gate. I go down there with him and I say, well, I don't see the damage. He says, well, look down underneath it. And as soon as I dropped to my knee, I knew I was getting hit. So anyway, he's hitting me, and as he's stabbing me and doing the controlled movements to my body, disabling my ability to defend myself. The last knife strike, as it came through the top of my head, I remember I'm going into the ground. He's let go of me because he knows he just killed me with that hit. And I'm laying there, and as I'm losing consciousness, I felt a love that is absolutely indescribable. Now, I was totally engulfed. And when the Bible talks about the former things pass away, in those short moments, I remember how none of this mattered to me anymore. And I just wanted to cling on and hang on to this amazing love that I felt enshroud me, completely take me over. Well, a short time later, as I woke up, I came up out of it. He was gone, the contract killer. And I crawled to one of my tenants and knocked on their door. And of course, say 911, please, everybody. And I remember going in and out of consciousness. My son standing there screaming, saying, my father is dying. I remember telling the police, this is a kill order. I'm a contractor for the Department of Justice. We need to get security around me. This isn't going to end here. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is this. When it is of God and it is from God, we definitely identify. Now, I was in the moment of death. Now, you don't probably know this about me, but I've been a hospice counselor for 26 years, received my chaplaincy in 2018, and I'm a certified hospice chaplain today. And I work with the dying constantly. So I now I believe that God made that an example for me, brother, so that when I'm laying there with somebody or talking there with somebody in their final moments before the death passage, they'll look up at me and they'll be full of love and they'll tell me thank you or God bless you or I love you. And I always felt that it was of God, but I had no understanding until that particular near-death experience. And I've had a few close calls. I've been captured. I've been tortured. I've been kidnapped. I've been tortured. I've gone through so many moments of almost being dead. But when you're facing death and you accept death and you realize death is not only imminent, but it's now here with you, that, my brother, is what I felt was the love of God. And when I came out of it, and after I came out of the coma, the first thing I did, my heart forgave the contract killer that was sent to kill me. All I was a name and an address on a piece of paper. I spent 15 years in the Sinaloa cartel. I'm very, very familiar with that life and what's involved in that life to even survive that life. But the point was, God gives us confirmation that we can be revealed, that we know that these are his truths. The instant forgiveness of man who was sent to kill me, the coming out of a moment of knowing that I was going to be dead within mere moments and ready to receive it and accept it. And I remember at the VA hospital, because I was captured in the country and I've had PTSD for many years, for the first 2 or 3 months when they were talking to me about the kill order that failed on me here, they were afraid I was going to commit suicide because I talked so greatly about how it felt to be leaving this world and introducing myself into the next. So, brother, I relate to what you're saying. The identification.
I hear you, my friend. That is the love of God. When you know that love
is
of God, the fear goes away.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me share that.
I still have a few more moments but I'm going to get to that point by the end where you'll know.
Interesting.
This was just the first moment of tasting that love, but not knowing how to reach it. How do I reach it? I didn't know the gospel, right? And so I do love your story. I've had the near-death experience not only here, but then congestive heart failure 2.5 years ago. So I understand.
Yeah, but, I thought you would. That's why I wanted to share that moment with you.
So here I am, and I'm dying of cancer. And this is not to circumvent your story. Your story is absolutely wonderful. But just to continue on. So here I am. I've got a softball-sized hard rock tumor in me. I've got, and basically, but now God, the God of love, just reached down and touched me and showed me that love, amazing love. Yes. And, I'm like, how do I reach this God? I know you're far away and you're busy, but you just took time to visit me. So how do I reach you? And a month later, my brother Bruce, middle brother, came home from college and told my father and I a story that in the late 60s, now 1970, there's no joke that he was on an LSD trip with his friends, a second one, and he had, and you just don't joke about this. Bruce could be a cut up, but my father, he disciplined with the fist, and he would have beat Bruce within an inch of his life if he knew that he was on drugs, any kind of drugs, not even LSD. And so Bruce came home and told us, that he had been on this trip, and it was the second trip. The first trip, he had flashbacks for 9 months, and it freaked him out, and he said he'd never do it again. His college buddies talk him into it. And so this year later, he does it. He's freaking out again. He's on this trip. And he had heard the gospel. He had gone to some churches with friends that told him, how to meet the Lord. On that trip, he calls out on the Lord and asks the Lord to save him. The Lord instantly sobers him, takes him down off this trip. He never had a flashback again, came home and chanced my father's wrath to tell us what just happened. Wow. Now, I'm putting 2 and 2 together. God just told me he loved me. Bruce came home and he met God. 2 and 2.
Yeah.
So now, how do I meet God? So I hounded Bruce for the next day and a half. How do you do this? So he told me the scriptures. He told me, repent of your sins. Ask the Lord to come into your life. And it's like, okay. And I did it over and over and over for a day and a half. And I felt 0 goose eggs. Bruce always got the Star Spangled Banner. He got that instant everything. And I got goose eggs. Now, probably I'm so full of self-hatred, guilt, over my mother's death, so much anger. Maybe my soul was so full of hate I couldn't feel, right?
Yes.
The scripture tells us that on the day we ask him to come into our lives, he comes
Yeah.
into our spirit, our innermost being, and he seals us until the day of redemption. But we don't feel from our spirit, from our innermost being. If we did, we would have known we were dead. But we didn't know we were dead.
You know, Paul's second epistle to the Corinthians in the 5th chapter and 17th verse talks about the new creation in Christ. Once we received, you remember, Paul was Saul on the road to Damascus, rounding up Christians. When he was struck down, scales put upon his eyes, taken to the house of Ananias, who was scared to death of Saul. But when the scales were lifted and removed, he was born again into the Apostle Paul. So I hear you, and I get that. Please go ahead. I just wanted to share that.
Well, I love the intervention. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always do that. And so here I am, and it's like, but nothing happened to me. And all of a sudden, the devil on my shoulder starts whispering in the ear, the God of this world. And he goes, You know what? Bruce is just stupid. You know, he's probably, he's doing drugs that you wouldn't do. And he probably just made this up because the God thing didn't work for you, did it? And, you thought you heard God's voice a month ago, but I'll bet you were just dreaming. You weren't just wide awake in your family room, full daylight, and you heard the booming voice of God filling the room. You didn't feel that love. That's just in your mind because you probably wanted to feel that way so you don't feel so bad about killing your mother.
Yes.
And you know what? That voice in the air from the God of this world, I'm going, yep, you're right.
That's the devil.
You're right. It's the devil. The devil wants to destroy us. He's the God of this world. We were raised by him under his tutelage. That's what the old man, the old nature, the flesh is. We've been raised. We were born in
the sinful nature.
Right. We're born. And if he whispers in our ear, we've been trained by him. If he pokes us this way or that way, we'll do whatever he says. We've been trained. Yes. And so he's going, oh, that's all bull. Sorry. In my house, I have to go BS because I have a 12-year-old daughter. And in our house, BS is bologna sandwich. For the rest of you, you know what BS is.
Yeah.
Okay. So he starts filling my head with BS, and I'm going, you know what? You're right. And he goes, you know what? You need to go crazy. Like you're dying, and you haven't got much time left, and you've never had sex, you've never done anything, time to go wild. Like if you're going out, go with a big hurrah, go do everything because you're 16 and you're going to die. So long story short, I sold everything I had. I built a chopper. I began to ride with the Hell's Angels. I became the second biggest drinker in my school. I was so proud that I could drink a fifth of whiskey in 2 hours and then drive home on my motorcycle. Yeah. But here's driving home. You start in the rightmost lane of 4 lanes, and I wake up across 4 lanes, almost in the ditch on the left side, to then get shoved back to be driving down the road and wake up almost in the ditch, shoved back. There's a lot of badly bruised angels who were there looking out for me. And they were pushing me and keeping me alive. I didn't deserve to live. And so in this time, my father found out about my cancer. Now, I had hidden it from him. But to get a motorcycle, I had to get a food handler's permit. To get a food handler's permit, I had to go to the county clinic. And that was going to do a full chest x-ray and a blood test. Well, the chest x-ray, I knew if I did that, I'd be giving my secret away. Full chest x-ray is going to show a softball-sized tumor in my gut. The blood test, they'll look at that and they'll go, what in the heck is that? So then they'll go a deeper blood test and they will now know cancer's coursing through my blood.
Yes.
Well, cancer's not a communicable disease, so they're not going to deny the food handler's permit for that. So I got the food handler's permit in the mail. Well, the next week I was walking in the house. My father's car's in the driveway, and he normally worked crazy hours. And as I walk in, before I walk in, I knew because I knew my father had just gotten the letter that day to tell him what the details were. And as I come walking in, he's building a fire in the fireplace, 80 some degrees, April day in, and he building this fire. And as soon as I walked in, he looked like the cat that swallowed the canary and guilty of sin. And he threw this letter into the fire. And I got really sarcastic. And I said, "What you doing?" "I'm just burning trash." "Why are you home in the middle of the day burning trash?" I just wanted to." "Really? We don't need to burn trash." "Well, I like to." I said, "Was that a letter? Did you just throw a letter in the fire?" No. It's just trash." "That looked just like a letter." "Oh, I swear that looked just like a letter." "Oh, no. So I'm thinking, okay, he's got to wrap his head around. He's just learned that his son is dying of cancer. He just lost his wife, my mother, 6 months prior. So he doesn't have his head wrapped around it. I've known for 6 months. It's no big deal to me. I know I'm dying. I mean, I'm scared where I'm going, but I know I'm dying. I've already made peace with the fact that I'm dying.
Yes.
And so I thought, I guess give him a little time. He's got to wrap his head around it. Now, he never showed love, right? But I thought maybe he could figuratively wrap his arm around me, and show me comfort. Maybe seek medical help. I don't deserve it. I don't want it. But I'm thinking, let's give him a little time. 1 week later, I come walking into the house. He's home in the middle of the day again. And here he is in the living room with 2 insurance agents. And he calls me in. And he says, "Tommy, come in. I want you to meet these guys." And he starts doing a dog and pony show to sell them and me on me having life insurance. Now, not on my 2 older brothers, just me. How strange.
Yeah.
And on the inside, I'm just churning now. What in the hell are you doing? Right? I am just so angry now at him, at the situation. And bottom line, he sells them a dog and pony show. They say, "Well, you need insurance agents. Before we can grant the policy, we need him to go get a clean bill of health from his doctor." And my father, "Oh, no. Tommy's in sports. He has a physical every year. Didn't you just have one 6 months ago, Tommy?" Well, that part was the only true thing he said. So I said, "Yeah, I did." And he goes, "Look, I can go to, get to his doctor and get you the result of that test." And now, if you know anything about a boy's physical, you do, you're 71, just like me. Then back in that day, it was height, weight, blood pressure, turn your head and cough.
Yep.
That was an exam.
That was a
for
physical.
A boy. That's your physical. Doesn't tell you a daggone thing about cancer. But my father didn't even want a blood test. He didn't want anything to show, right? Because he has the results in his hands. Well, he burned it up, actually. So now he's committing insurance fraud. And he only took out, I'm thinking, well, if you want to take out enough to bury me, that's one thing, and buy yourself a case of beer. No, we were an upper middle class family. He didn't need the money. But okay, you lost your wife, my mother. You're just losing me. You want to drown your sorrows. So I'm thinking, okay, if it's just small amount, it's no big deal. Nope. He took out a multi-million-dollar policy on me.
Boy, that sends
Not
a
my
message.
brothers, just me.
Yeah.
It's like, are you frickin' kidding me? Are you kidding me? Add insult to injury. I not only hate myself and have guilt, and not only have believed the devil to now be hating God because I was told that was a fraud and I'm believing. And now I have the deepest anger and hate and wrath and unforgiveness for my father. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
You're going to retire on me?
Another test.
Oh, how nice. And you think you just found out something I don't know, and you're not going to tell me or anybody else, no medical attention. No, you can't pull insurance fraud if you get medical attention. Yeah. So you're going to do this? I thought we were friends, at least, in terms of I sat there and under your tutelage forever. And so now and this is where I go haywire. That's when I built up the chopper. I became the second biggest drinker in my school. I ride with the Hell's Angels, and I'm going berserk. Okay. And I devised a plan in my mind that as soon as my motorcycle would be running good enough, that I would blackmail my father. And I would tell him, I know about your insurance fraud. And if you want me to keep my mouth closed, I want X number thousands of dollars so I can take my motorcycle, drive across country for my last hurrah. And then you can come pick up the pieces on the other side. And that was my plan for the blackmail. That's what I was going to tell him. But my devious plan was more. I lived in Columbus, Ohio, and I planned on driving to the Grand Canyon in Colorado, and I was going to drive my motorcycle off, pull the Evel Knievel with nothing on the other side. If I'm going to die, this is how much rage and anger and hate I'm so full. It's like, if I'm going out, I'm taking myself out the way I want. And I was planning on doing that, except I had one other part of the devious plan. I was going to pin a letter inside my clothes that told about my father's insurance fraud, so that when they picked up the pieces at the bottom, he'd be found out, he'd lose the full payout. Coming from a Jewish background, he'd hate the fact that he lost all the money he had to pay me up front. And I was hoping beyond hope he'd go to jail for a long time. So that was my plan. Now, here's the thing. This motorcycle is 49 Harley. I built it up into a chopper. And it would run good, and yet it would break every week. I'd be blowing head gaskets all the time. I figured I got to get to the city's edge. By the time I would even start to get close, it's like an angel with a sword would just touch the engine and go, boop, broke.
Yeah.
Rebuilding it every week. So, God was foiling my plans, which is good. Because my plan was death, suicide. And so after 8 months of all this, and I'm sitting there one night with my biker buddy gang, and we're sitting there drinking late at night, bottle after bottle of cheap wine, sitting around on our bikes, and we would have discussions. That's just normal. But this night we had a spiritual discussion. We never did that. And I'm like so full of anger towards God and everybody else and believe in the devil who lies. And so I thought, I'm going to tell them about Bruce so they can scoff, because I want to scoff right with them. So I told them the story about Bruce and how God had touched him, took him down off an LSD trip, instantly sobered, and they didn't scoff. I thought, okay, I'm going to tell you my story, then you'll really scoff. So here I am, and I asked God to come in my life, day and a half, asking. Didn't feel a thing. He didn't come in. And in the moment I said that, I knew I was wrong.
Yeah.
In that moment, the Spirit of God that had sealed from the innermost being began to flow out, as in John 7, as Jesus said, from our innermost being will flow rivers of living water. And this he spoke of the Spirit. And the Spirit broke through all my hate, anger, guilt, unforgiveness, all the crap I was living with, and busted right past it. And I was instantly sobered like Bruce. And I knew the God of the world, just like you in your story. All of a sudden, I knew where I was going.
Yeah.
I knew I was dying, but now I knew where I was going, and I was not afraid. I knew what my mother knew, why she wasn't afraid. And I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And I looked around, woken up, what am I doing with these guys? And I
For
said,
the former things have passed away, brother.
And went in that moment. And all of a sudden, I drove home sober that night. The angels didn't have to push me back and forth. And I always appreciate the angels of God.
Yes.
And the true angels, there's fallen angels. We can deal with that. That's on the books too. But the fact is that all of a sudden my life was changed. And at high school, all of a sudden I'm 16, now going on 17. And these people are used to seeing this Harley riding, scuzzball, rides with biker gangs, second biggest drinker in the school. And all of a sudden I become the Jesus freak. 1970. It was the beginning, early charismatic movement. I was birthed in the charismatic movement, which went from 68 to 77, but I was birthed in 70, 71. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm talking about the Lord, because I know where I know I'm dying, but now I know I'm going home to be with Papa God. I now know who Papa God is. And he's not just far away, that he actually has every hair numbered on our head, and that he actually cares that deeply. He's the God who spoke the world into being in 6 sentences. He spread it over 6 days, but in 6 sentences, he spoke it into being. And he holds the world together by the word of his mouth. And you go, Tom, I hear you, but I believe in evolution. God kind of spread it over millions of years. No, he didn't. You go, Tom, you're kind of dumb to just accept that. Well, you know why I'm dumb? Because I'm an engineer. And as an engineer, in my first book, I will prove to you by atomic theory, by science itself, why God spoke the world into being in 6 sentences in 6 days, and why he holds it together by the word of his mouth right now.
Amen.
And if he didn't, we would all blow into hydrogen gas. I will prove it to you by atomic theory. God, if God created the world, he also created science. I'm not talking about crazy theories.
Of course.
But the science is true.
Tom, God is omnipotent, omnipresent. He's many, many things. He is everywhere at every time. He's in everything in all eternity. That is God. Now, listen, we've got a couple minutes left before we get off air. This story is absolutely amazing. I love the conversion. And what I'd like to do before we close out today is I'd like for you to have a specific message from your heart that you want to give to my audience.
Okay. Let me just say that if you want to read the whole story, it's in my first book. I've got 2 books I've written.
What's the name of the book, and is it at Amazon? Where's the book located at?
Amazon. It's called, the first book's called The Daily Stand. It's called A Spiritual Warfare Manual for Today and the Next Upcoming Great Move of God. But I started it over 40 years ago, and it talks, because I walked through so much spiritual warfare and dealing with so many things with my spiritual father. And we saw the power of God, just like in Jesus's day, dealing with demoniacs, dealing with all kinds of things. But the whole book teaches, God waited 40 years and I started it, I wrote it, and then I had a bunch of notes, and he said, put it down. And I put it down. And then 2.5 years ago, when I had congestive heart failure, he said, pick it up. Now, there's a lot of story in between. Not going to go into all that. But what he wanted to do was purge 40 years of garbage out of my life. Because just like the children of Israel, who grew up in Egypt under all of that slavery, who, when God sets them free and puts them into the wilderness, so they go to a 7-day journey to go from Egypt to the land of milk and honey. It's only 7 days. But God ran them around the mountain for 40 years.
Yes, he did.
Why? Because he had to purge 40 years of garbage from their lives. If 20 years per generation, there was 2 generations of garbage inside of them that had to be purged. You read all what happened, they were complaining the whole time. They wanted to go back to slavery, where they had pots of meat and bread to eat.
Well, brother, I got to tell you, I would love to have an autographed copy of this book. And if you notice on our screen right now, Pete Turner, my co-host, has just put up the name of the book and where my audience can purchase the book at. I think it's an amazing part of the journey that you've just shared with all of us. And Tom, I want to thank you. I want to ask God to continue to bless you as we serve him and give him all the glory. So, brother, thank you so very much for coming on our show today. Powerful message. Great introduction. Thank you, brother.
Okay, folks. Well, that wraps up another episode today. And I'd like to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to catch our show. Now, if you like these shows, I would ask that you would please hit like, share, and subscribe. It's so important to us that we get these messages out, and we understand that these are graphic, almost toxic interviews. But, this is the kind of impact that we feel is needed in order to make sure that people understand the significance of the problems that we are confronted within our own country and around the globe. So I'm going to say at this time that I love you all. God bless you all. Hasta luego, y vaya con Dios, and go Victors.